Will the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs please come to order? It's 1:07 p.m. I wanted to introduce committee members Cordero, Kiaina, Okimoto, and Tupola. I sense a theme here. Thank you for joining us. And committee members Tolba, Say, Waters, and Wire are excused from today's meeting. Before we start our meeting, I have some procedural announcements to make. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda when the item is taken up in the following order: first, in-person testimony in the council chamber, and then remote testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. For remote testifiers, when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Some friendly reminders and tips: please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. All registered testifiers will be called upon first. Then I'll give persons who have not registered an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. HRS 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, if any objections are noted, I'll call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described in the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Members will dive right into agenda item number 1, which is Resolution 23-239, which initiates amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu, 1973, amended 2017 edition, as amended, relating to the qualifications of the Director of Emergency Management. Members, we do have a proposed CD1 submitted by the department. That CD1 is available online as Departmental Communication D-001724. Members, we also have a proposed CD1 submitted by Councilmember Wire. I do want to mention up front, my inclination is to defer this because Councilmember Wire is not here, and I think that there's just a little bit of work between the department and Councilmember Wire between their various CDs. But we do have the Assistant Director of the Department of Human Resources here, as well as Jennifer Walter, Deputy Director of the Department of Emergency Management. If any of them, who wants to go first?
Thank you, Chair Dos Santos Tam, Vice Chair Cordero, and members of the committee. So at the EMLA committee back in November, Council Member Wire actually posed a very good question. He asked whether the charter could actually spell out some minimum qualifications along with DHR's qualifications under our classification plan. And initially, our belief was that it would be inconsistent. But we did check with CORE, we did some research, and it's actually, the charter can actually set out some minimum qualifications, and DHR can also do the rest. So our suggested amendment via the transmittal that we submitted to the council was basically have some minimum qualifications, 5 years of, it would be 5 years of professional level experience in emergency management, disaster planning, and public safety services management, 3 years of which will be in a responsible administrative capacity. We figured that would be a good floor for the minimum qualifications in the charter, and we can spell out the rest in our minimum qualifications under the classification plan so that in case there's any future amendments, we would not have to do another charter amendment. So that was that was the crux behind our suggested amendments. It gives us further flexibility in the future.
Okay, and Deputy Director, if we could have your name for the record.
I'm sorry, Florencio Bugs Baguio, Jr.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Floor Leader Cordero.
Deputy Director Baguio, I was just wondering about, is this the communications from the department to Chair Tyler Dos Santos Tam back in November 13?
We actually submitted an updated proposed CD1. It was dated January 3rd.
Oh, I see.
Council member. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Departmental Communication 17.
17, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And so I know that we're not taking it up and we're possibly going to defer, but does Councilmember Wire's proposed CD1 incorporate what was stated in your updated letter?
I think his proposed CD1 had more MQs set forth therein. basically, again, we want flexibility, so the less we put in the actual charter, the more we can actually change if we need to in the future via the classification plan.
Okay, and does that mean the MQs that Councilmember Wire has are not supported by the department?
Well, they're actually kind of they're pretty much in alignment with what we have in our minimum qualifications, and we told him that. So,
Okay.
I mean, he was basically on the right track.
Okay, we look forward to further discussion then in the next committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to welcome Committee Member Say and Chair Waters. Members, any other questions for the Deputy Director of DHR? Okay, seeing none. We also have the Deputy Director of Emergency Management. If she wants to come up, or I don't know if there's anything else to say on this. Yeah, press the button. Yeah, sorry. One more time. There we go.
There we go. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walter. I'm the Deputy Director at the Department of Emergency Management. Thank you for having me, Chair, Co-Chair, and council members. The only other things that this does is kind of update some things that were outdated based on when the Department of Emergency Management was formerly the Oahu Civil Defense Agency, and in 2007 it changed to the Department of Emergency Management. So there was some outdated language in there. In addition, in 2014, the state passed HRS 127A, which is the state emergency management law, which has some stipulations for county emergency management agencies. So this just makes the language about our department consistent with that as well. Those are the only other pieces that are in there.
Okay, members, any questions? Floor Leader Cordero.
Deputy Director Walter, I was just wondering, oopsie. I was wondering, as you mentioned, actually, I'm glad you brought that up relating to what is enacted at the state level. Has there been any indication at the state level that the requirements or qualifications for the different emergency management agencies in the county may change in future sessions, in the future current session?
We haven't had any specific indications of that right now. It's very general. It does have some stipulations for the state administrator, but it doesn't stipulate anything about requirements for the county administrators other than that they report to the mayor and that they are a separate department, the emergency management agencies. But we haven't had any conversations about additional changes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know, I'm glad you brought that up because that there are stricter ones for the state administrator or state, yeah, I think state administrator, because we have seen, especially publicly, certain questions about the state administrator, but then as we go through different responses to unforeseen incidents, that the roles of the emergency management director does come into question at the county level as well too. So, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
One more comment, if I could.
yes.
We worked with DHR on this in support, having some language about qualifications because we understand the importance of the position, but we also agree that the flexibility is important. By way of example, when I graduated in 1999, there weren't emergency management programs. It was a new field, but I've worked for 20 plus years now in emergency management. So if you go down a path of like requiring a certain degree or things like that, it's been really dynamic as the country's gone through these really big disasters. What is asked of the administrators of these agencies and directors changes. So while we agree that the experience level is important, having the flexibility to adjust to new requirements and types of threats we face is important as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none at this time, why don't we take some testimony? We'll proceed with in-person testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers or anyone waiting in the chamber to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, and then clerks, do we have any registered remote testifiers or anyone standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, that being the case, members, is there any discussion on this resolution at this time? Okay, seeing none, the chair recommends that action on resolution 23-239 be postponed to a time and date to be determined by the committee chair. Again, I think this will give Councilmember Wire, who initiated this proposal, as well as the department, some time to come up with something that we can pass out and hopefully send to the voters to consider. Is there any discussion, objections, or reservations to that recommendation? Okay, hearing none, so ordered. We're on to agenda item number 2. This is Resolution 24-4, which relates to the appointment of officers for the Hawaii State Association of Counties. Why don't we take testimony up front on this? Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers or anyone else in the chamber waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
And then clerks, do we have any registered remote testifiers or anyone standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Members, since this is council initiated, we'll proceed with discussion. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Okay. Yes, Councilmember Say.
Would you know what the cost is for our contribution to the HSAC?
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe Chair Waters knows.
Off the top of my head, I think it's $15,000.
Okay. No, I truly believe the person that's going to be the treasurer will run it very, very carefully as far as the fiscal responsibilities of his position that he holds. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, the chair recommends a resolution 24-4 be reported out for adoption. Any discussions, objections, or reservations to that recommendation? Okay, hearing none, so ordered. Members will now move to executive session. The following items as posted in the agenda have been referred to executive session. I'll read the item individually to allow for oral public testimony on it. It's a request for authorization to settle a case against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Dwayne Ka'aiali'i Jr. versus City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number 1 CCV-22-00000928, Circuit Court. To testify on this matter.
Chair, there are none.
And then clerks, do we have any registered remote testifiers or anyone standing by remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. That being the case, members, are there any objections to convening into executive session? Okay, hearing none, without objections, the committee convenes into a closed meeting pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-4 and 92-5A4 to consult in a closed meeting with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and or liabilities of the city, the council, and its committees on the item listed on the agenda for executive session. The following persons will be participating in executive session. All council members present. From Corporation Counsel, Dwayne W.H. Pang and Catherine Nesty, and Seichi Lai Yu, Office of Council Services, Staff Attorney. At this time, I will call a recess. The Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs is reconvened. It's 1:31 p.m. Pursuant to Section 92-4 and 92-5A4 about your revised statutes, the committee is consulted in executive session with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities of the city, the council, and its committees, and the items listed on the agenda for executive session. I'll now make my recommendation, which is the chair recommends that the request for authorization to settle a case against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Dwayne Ka'aili'i Jr. versus City and County of Honolulu et al., civil number 1CCV-22-00000928, Circuit Court, be approved. Members, is there any discussion, objections, or reservations to this recommendation? Hearing none, so ordered, and there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. It's 1:31 p.m. Thanks.